lapped.
So let's talk a little bit about the psychology within the Williams team at the moment. They've clearly got a dominant package and they want to absolutely capitalise on it. But there's no team orders at Williams. Both drivers are free to race each other. And Montoya must be realising now that if he doesn't start winning some races and getting into this championship hunt, he's going to sit there and watch his teammate Ralf Schumacher marching into the championship fight. So today really a day when they've got this advantage. He's got to try and do something about it, hasn't he?
Yes, Williams don't really need team orders right now. I still think they compromised themselves in Montreal by not letting Montoya have a go at Michael. We've seen what Montoya does when he has a go at Michael, and it's somewhat more dramatic than when Ralf has a go at his brother. But you have to say they don't really need team orders because Ralf is so fast at the moment and doing such a great job. He really does look confident in the car. The car's responding well. Those wider front Michelins clearly balance that car up very nicely, and Ralf just relentlessly on his way. But as we speak, Montoya's starting to pump out some pretty quick laps. I think you're right, James. He's realised that, hey, I've really got to get back on terms here. The lead is now down to 6.5 seconds, mostly because Ralf has been passing traffic.
Yes, there can't be much worse than being the teammate of a world champion in a year when you've got a dominant car, and it sort of begs the question, well, why didn't you do the job? Why weren't you quicker weekend after weekend? Montoya did win, of course, the Monaco Grand Prix. He was the first one to get the win on the board for Williams this season. But Ralf Schumacher, with his metronomic, to use the word again, pace as Montoya comes into the pits. Ralf Schumacher's had points in every Grand Prix this season. Montoya has had some non-finishes, and that's the difference between them. Ted?
Well, no problems with the Williams pit stop this time. A little uptake of the pneumatic air system. I think they put a bit more air into that engine system. We'll keep across that one. Jarno Trulli's next in for Renault. They're going to change all tyres, as we heard, and then add a bit more front wing to balance out the car. Here he comes now.
Yes, the only thing you can't really add at the pit stop is oil. You cannot add oil to a car, but they can top up the hydraulic, compressed air system, and that's a great stop from Renault. 6.2 seconds, but I don't believe it's anything like enough to get him in front of Michael Schumacher.
No, they've certainly changed the front tyres this time, haven't they? That was a mistake then, as Mike Gascoigne was telling us from the pit wall after the first round of pit stops. Not changing the front tyres on the Renault certainly cost them in terms of lap time. And it's not exactly set them up and given them a platform from which to attack Michael Schumacher. Trulli was 5 seconds behind the German before he dived in for his stop. So unless Michael Schumacher hits some traffic or has some problems, as Ralf Schumacher comes into the pits, and one of the Ferraris is expected as well.
It won't be Barrichello. Barrichello was the next man to be lapped if Ralf hadn't have pitted there. This should be a 6-point something again. And the nozzle was out in good time. So solid pit stop for Ralf Schumacher. Panis is in from 8th place too in the Toyota.
Back out onto the racetrack. This is what it feels like, building up to speed then. Don't cut across that white line. That's what several drivers, including Michael and Ralf Schumacher, did last year. Michael Schumacher is into the pits right beneath us as well. New set of boots going on to him. And, well, unless he loses a lot of time, he should maintain that position over Jarno Trulli.
Yes, he had an advantage of about 3.5 seconds, and certainly haven't seen anything on his in-lap or his pit stop that would compromise that. Trulli's not been lapping that quickly either, so Michael Schumacher should resume in what is effectively 5th place. Your leader then.
Well, Fernando Alonso has not yet pitted, so one of the two Renaults trying something a little bit different. Let's see if that pays off for him. He's not really close enough to have a go at Michael Schumacher. Alonso not really quite on the pace of his teammate Trulli this weekend. It's been a while since we've been able to say that. Trulli definitely having the upper hand within the Renault setup.
Coulthard within 0.8 of a second now of his teammate. We'll be picking him up soon if the race director's got his eyes open, because quite a little battle then brewing up between the two McLaren drivers. We'll have to wait and see how Montoya's pit stop works out before we know what the lead situation is. Montoya's just done a new fastest lap, smashed. Coulthard had it before on a 1:15.9. Montoya's just put in a 1:15.5. Kind of suggests, James, that they could go faster if they had to, doesn't it? The Williams, if you can just suddenly find 7/10s. Ted?
Well, here comes Fernando Alonso into his pit box. Will he be able to overtake his teammate Jarno Trulli on this? They changed tyres. He's been asking for more front wing on the radio, so they put that on the Renault. Good stop, 6.6. Where's Trulli, though?
Trulli's just gone past our window, Ted, and well on his way into turn 1, so nothing changing then for Alonso. Montoya's just smashed the first sector time as well. He is absolutely on a mission now to close that gap.
He really is. He's taking advantage of the fact that this was the period around which Ralf Schumacher was making his stop slightly slow. You can see how hard Ralf Schumacher's going now in response. He does not want his teammate to spoil his party here this weekend. He's driving absolutely beautifully at the moment, Ralf Schumacher. And Montoya on the attack, which is certainly pretty exciting to watch. Joining us once again then after that round of pit stops from the Renault timing stand, Technical Director of Renault, Mike Gascoigne. Mike, your two drivers having a good scrap there.
Yeah, I mean, we hope to be able to get up to Michael and jump him in the pit stop, but we weren't able to do that or get close enough. We struggled a little bit with traffic. But we're looking to do a sort of a shorter stint to see if we can tow our way up and use some new tyres in the pit stop to try and jump him.
Mike, Michelin have really been strong these last few races. I suggested it might be because you've got Williams and McLaren feeding them a lot of information. I should have said Renault too, of course. Do you think, are you guys working together hard on that? How close are your tyres? Two questions, really. How close are your tyres to the Williams and McLaren ones too?
I mean, we tend to be easier on the tyre, Martin. We tend to try and run a softer tyre and try and get an advantage on that. That certainly worked for us early in the year. I think here we're all on the same tyre. I think that, you know, Michelin have done a fantastic job. They used to suffer a lot with graining, and they've really got that graining under control, which means that we don't have to do any of the scrubbing, and we can really push all the way through the stint in a race.
Yes, but do you share information? Why have Michelin moved ahead of Bridgestone?
I mean, they are a very, very good tyre company. I think it took them a while to catch up, but I think ultimately they do have 3 top teams, so they're doing a lot more testing than Bridgestone perhaps just concentrating on Ferrari. So they've got 3 teams testing, doing a lot of work, and I think that's allowed them to push forward.
Final question, Mike. We heard you say you're doing a short middle stint here with your drivers. At the moment, it looks as though Trulli has the upper hand over Alonso. That's been unusual in terms of the recent times. Is that the way it is? And what are your expectations for this race?
Well, I think certainly Jarno's driving very well. We felt he had the edge over Fernando at the Nürburgring as well. He certainly looked quicker, and he's been more on it this weekend, and certainly is very consistent. I mean, Jarno can be frustrating in the race at times, but when it's perfect and he gets it right, he is one of the quickest guys out there.
Thanks very much, Mike. We'll speak again later on. There's a pass there between Frentzen and Heidfeld, and that's allowing the McLarens to come through. They're lapping the 2 Saubers. Frentzen in front of teammate Heidfeld there, and they're running round in 14th and 15th places, which is pretty ignominious stuff for the Sauber team. The bad news for all of the back markers really is that the reliability this afternoon, I hesitate to say it, but the reliability this afternoon has been unbelievable. Only Jenson Button has pulled out of the race, and that was because he ran out of fuel, so nothing wrong with his car. It's really been absolutely staggering, and considering the cars have spent the night in Parc Fermé, it's a pretty good effort. There you can see Michael Schumacher. He is behind the 2 McLarens of Raikkonen and Coulthard, and if he maintains this, he's going to finish only in 5th place today.
Interesting though, isn't it? As the McLarens got held up there, really passing the fighting Saubers, it's really put Michael Schumacher back in the zone. The Raikkonen and Coulthard 17s and 18s, as Michael pulls a 16.6 out of the bag, and the gap is down to just 2.5 seconds all of a sudden. So some work to be done then by the McLaren drivers to regain that ground they lost, clearing. Whenever you've got 2 back markers fighting each other, it always costs you a lot more time. They're not watching you. And Coulthard going too deep there into Adelaide, pushing very late on the brakes, cost himself a touch more time. Clearly wanting to reduce that gap back down again to a few tenths of a second that he'd made to the back of Raikkonen.
Well, Coulthard has an important role to play here because he needs to protect the tail of teammate Raikkonen. Obviously, if he gets a chance to pass him, I'm sure he'll take it. But clearly in the points battle, Michael Schumacher honing in on the two of them. Coulthard does need to make sure that Michael doesn't score any points that are absolutely necessary here this afternoon. Well, as I said, the only man to drop out of the Grand Prix today has been Jenson Button, and the unfortunate man is talking with Louise now.
Jenson, that has to be one of the most frustrating causes for retirement.
Yeah, it is. It was a problem with the fuel rig, and I think I got some fuel, but I didn't get all the fuel I needed, obviously. Yeah, and that was it, really.